this is Caitlin here, aka Scribble Sketch, and welcome back to our Patreon bonus video. We have two that are coming out this month and two that are actually coming out this week because we've got two wonderful patrons who have pledged to the tier where they get to make a video request from me. Now be sure to check out my Patreon page, which is linked down below, and it's also linked at my front page or whatever for my YouTube. If you want to check out, each month I give my patrons lovely little rewards and whatnot, whether it be drawings of their request, a video topic of their choice or whatever, and they also get exclusive previews as to my video schedules and thumbnails and whatnot that I'm creating, and a couple of behind the scenes things or whatnot and what I'm talking about and everything in regards to the channel, and it helps to support the channel as well, just a little bit here and there, and it's always nice. So this one in particular, this one is a Patreon bonus video for our lovely patron, the Carnivalous Waltz. I hope I'm saying that correctly, otherwise I think I've been getting it wrong for the past couple of weeks or whatever from the rest of this month since you've pledged. But they requested that I particularly talk about the epic stories format in Force of Will. They kind of like said basically I can talk about what I think about it, give a little brief overview of it, maybe some things that I would do in particular if I was to play this format and everything. So that's kind of the idea for this video. I'm going to go over, do like a little brief overview, trying to explain it as best as I can in my words. There's different places that you can look up different ways to find out the rules and how the game is actually played in this format, but if you can, even if you just search like Force of Will epic stories, a bunch of stuff comes up. But we're going to cover it here and now, and I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you enjoy it as well, Carnivalous Waltz, and I hope I do this a little bit of justice for you, and I hope you enjoy it. So starting off here, epic stories. It seems to be, from what I could read up on, a format that seems to have started round about maybe 2016, maybe earliest kind of time. It feels like, because I was trying to figure out when was the earliest kind of recording or earliest kind of like prompt that this was brought up in, but I think it's about 2016ish, so it's maybe about 2 years old maybe as a format. I don't think it's as old as Genesis, but Genesis is a completely different format entirely. But this one, if you play Magic the Gathering, which I don't, but I've heard of this playstyle, some people would call it like Commander or something like that, where you get like two different quote-unquote commanders, or in this regard, two different rulers. So the idea of it is that you have basically one deck, but you have two rulers. You start off with 8,000 life, so you, instead of 4,000, you start off with 8,000, and 60 card minimum for your deck, because obviously you've got two rulers, that means you would probably need more cards. The interesting thing I find about this is that obviously in this format, there are no dual stones at all. It is basically singleton except for basic stones. So depending on the like size of your card stone pool, you need to really kind of figure out what you're going to do, because in regards to the cards within your deck, you can only play cards with the same attribute as your two rulers, which I find really interesting, because you would think in a singleton format it would just be like playing Ayu and whatnot, because you know Ayu is a singleton deck, she plays one of every card. But in particular this one is that you can only play cards that share a colour with the two rulers that you are playing with, whereas I don't think they have to both like share the same attribute. Like say if you had a blue darkness ruler and you had a light red ruler, as long as your resonator or spell or card fell into one of those colours, you could play that colour, I'm pretty sure. If I remember correctly, I don't think your two rulers can share a colour, or rather I don't think colours can overlap, or if they do happen to share a colour, then you know it just happens to count once. But I'm pretty sure I've read that, because there is a very long rule list, and I'm kind of like glancing over the kind of shorter version of it, but I'm pretty sure it did say that you could only have one colour, whatever. So I need to find the bit where it says about the rulers or whatever. Yeah, a card's colour identity is a combination of the card's colours and the attribution costs. Blah blah blah. I don't think I can see, if I'm just glancing over it here, where it specifically says it, but I'm pretty sure they can't overlap or whatnot, so I'm pretty sure you have to have two different coloured rulers, if I'm remembering that correctly. I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong about that. I've been trying to read over these rules and everything, but there's quite a few here, and I'm just trying to read the condensed version of it. But yeah, so basically you have to make a deck of 60 cards. You try and kind of utilize both rulers, and probably a best way to like figure out, okay, if I only have one of each card, I want to like figure out which ones are the best ones to play with these two rulers in particular. Also, another fun thing is that cards that reference your opponent or your ruler without targeting will affect all your opponents or rulers respectively. So I think this one is also encouraged that you can play it with more than 2 people. I think they said that it's very encouraging to play it with maybe 3 or 4. In that case, I would think games would get pretty crazy and pretty chaotic if you've got like 8 different sets of rulers that are going off at the same time. So I find that really interesting. And also, of course, you cannot have 2 J rulers out at the same time, and you cannot do judgment if you have called a stone that turn, which I think balances a little bit, because it would be a little bit broken if you could have 2 J rulers on the field at the same time, because they're just like huge, massive resonators. But I think that's actually quite fair, and obviously you can't judgment the other ruler if you've called for a stone with one of them that turn. So I feel like that's actually a pretty decent kind of trade-off and whatnot. But overall, I think it's a very interesting sounding format, and as far as this article here that I read, apparently there isn't a ban list currently. But I need to like double check if there's any updated rules since then or whatever in regards to a ban list. Because I would think that you would probably think that things like Priscia would be pretty strong in that regard, because obviously she's got so many different abilities and whatnot, plus she's dual coloured, so that would be very, very helpful. And also, as far as I'm aware, it seems to be that this is almost like a Wanderer format, where you can use cards from way, way back. I'm wondering if they include Valhalla. I'm going to just double check very, very quickly here. Yeah, I think you can actually use Valhalla, or it says on Valhalla cards from the Valhalla cluster and starter are legal for use, but received limited starter decks and no cluster sets US print run. So if you are using Valhalla cards, you need to come prepared. You can bring card substitutes on an alternate deck and politely discuss with your group if they are okay with you using them. Bring a printout of the official text of the card for any foreign language cards. So they also say that you can use foreign language cards as long as you have an English translation on hand for the card that you want to use. So that's actually kind of good, that similar to Genesis a little bit, where you can use the Valhalla cards. You can use Valhalla cards in this format as well. But yeah, I find it interesting how you need to try and plan ahead, because obviously with it being only one copy of each card, if you're running some kind of like counter deck or whatever, you're only getting access to one of each of the very good counters, and even then you have to have at least green as one of your rulers in order to access the majority of the good counter cards, and quite a lot of them are actually dual colours, so, similar to like Millennia Bond and Seal of Wind and Light. Both of those have green, but both of those also have blue and light, so you'd probably have to figure out the best way in order to balance it in regards to your 2 rulers, because obviously you want to have a good spread of colours, but at the same time you want to make sure that you've got rulers that really synergize pretty well. And just off the bat already, I can think of immediately probably one of the best rulers that would probably be a pretty good option for synergizing with this kind of dual format or whatever, would probably be Flute. I think Flute would, if I was going to build some kind of epic stories deck, I would definitely probably pick Flute as one of my options, just because her passive ability to tap and draw your card is insanely good, and I feel like she doesn't get like a lot of use out of her in her like normal like singleton deck or whatever, or rather in a normal deck, because you have to still tap for a stone, so you need to rely on either having Flute's Water Dragon out or, you know, not tapping for a stone that turn. But I feel like with this format, you could easily utilize her really, really well if you have her. Like, if you focus on her just, like, tapping to draw cards, your other ruler tapping to call a stone, because I'm pretty sure, like, you can still do activate tap abilities of J rulers, as long as you didn't tap, or as long as that one didn't tap for stone that turn, so that way the other ruler would be able to tap for stone. But I think that would be a pretty good way to, like, try to, if you look at the different rulers and whatnot, a lot of them do have, like, you know, tap abilities, whatever, but you probably wouldn't get access to them because you normally just have one ruler, so you're either deciding, right, I'm going to do the tap ability, or I'm going to call for a stone. And also because you're not running dual coloured stones, you run the risk of basically just being colour screwed all the time, because say for instance you had 2 rulers, both of them have all different colours, so you decide to do 4 colours. You have to keep in mind that you're going to have 4 different coloured basic stones. That's crazy enough in a draft alone, but try and think of that in like a singleton deck where you know that you basically need a balance of specific colours, but you might not actually get to play them, because what if a bunch of them are just 1 cost and you don't actually have the 1 colour that you need in order to play these cards? So there's a lot of like mind games, there's a lot of thinking that needs to go down into a deck of this kind. because obviously you've got one of each card, you've got 2 rulers to consider, you've got all the colours that you have access to consider, and also the availability of some cards. I mean, some cards might not synergize well, considering that there'll be just one copy of each. So if you're like trying to think of some wombo combo that you could end up building, well, it's probably not going to actually happen. Like, I would think that the worst one for this one would probably be, I think one of the very worst rulers would be the Stone Arla, or the one where it's like, oh, you can reanimate stones and whatnot, because 1, you don't get access to a special stone, and 2, you've all got like different, rather you've got basic stones and whatnot, so I feel like he probably wouldn't be that good, especially because on the ruler side, even though it says it's all colours, I don't think it counts for all colours, because I think one of the ones where it was like, one of the rules I remember was like the Seven Kings Memoria. On the front side, it doesn't count for any of those colours, but when it flips over, it counts for the colour it is when it's flipped over. I'm not quite sure whether that means that you can't access green until Arla is then flipped in that case, but I would need to like double check that ruling if that would actually work or not. But also it gives like people who have been playing this game for a very long time the chance to use their Valhalla cards. Obviously we're going into the new Valhalla pretty soon, which I think is pretty interesting, so maybe then that'll be a greater access and whatnot to even more crazy combos for this format, and I find it really interesting. I've obviously not had the chance to play this yet. At my locals we are pretty much still in the mindset of New Frontiers. We've played Wanderer like once or twice, but we don't really play kind of Wanderer or Genesis formats, just because a lot of our players are rather new and they jumped on board about Lapis Cluster time, so barely anyone has any access to like Alice Cluster, Grim Cluster, and heck, pretty much none of us have any of the Valhalla cards, like the OG Valhalla cards. I think I have maybe 1 or 2, but they're promo cards and like they're really random ones and everything. So we definitely play New Frontiers as most, and whenever I do like a more recent kind of deck profile, which I haven't actually had the chance to do a deck profile in a little while, but that's mainly because I've been stuck for ideas and I'm still trying to figure out things, and I'm debating whether to wait until New Valhalla Cluster starts before I make a deck profile, or wait whether I squeeze out one last one before the clusters rotate and everything like that. But I think it would be pretty interesting. If you guys would be interested in me trying to build something for Epic Stories format, please be sure to comment down below. I would love to hear any of your suggestions if you want me to try and build decks for these different formats. I always feel like maybe people are more interested in New Frontiers because that's the current situation, but if you guys are interested in like the alternative formats and everything like Genesis, Epic Stories, or even if you're still interested in Wanderer, then please feel free to comment down below. I would love to hear your suggestions, guys, and whatnot. Other than that, I think it's definitely a good idea. I would highly recommend searching up Epic Stories matches on YouTube and whatnot, because I've been watching a couple, and yeah, some of the interactions are actually kind of crazy, and I think it's rather silly to see all these different things to consider, especially because in the various different clusters and whatnot that we've had, considering that this is a format that uses 2 rulers, this means that you also have access to a hell of a lot of ruler hate, because there's so many different cards that basically interact with a ruler, whether it be like basically AJ ruler or just the ruler on its ruler side. You've got things like Barrier of Shadows, you've got Shackles of Ice, there's freaking there's Black Moonbeam. Of course, Black Moonbeam would be in this format if you've got access to Darkness. So I think this is actually a very interesting format. I would be happy to maybe try it out sometime. Whether or not I'd be able to play it with people at my locals or not is another thing, because obviously not a lot of them have access to the older cards and everything. Maybe if we played like a format where we just used it from Lapis Cluster onwards, I think would be pretty fair. Because then by the time New Valhalla rolls around, we'd have access to both Lapis, Rhea, and New Valhalla. I might pitch it to some of my friends and see if they're interested in trying it out or whatever, because I think we do have certainly enough cards to make a 60 card deck, and between all of us we have plenty of rulers to try out different combos and everything. So yeah, I think that this is actually a really interesting format. I would be quite happy to maybe try and build a deck for it and whatnot. And obviously, you're trying to like work around the idea that this is not an IO deck, this is something completely different. And also, if you are playing it in regards to like multiple opponents, so like you've got like 4 people playing, that just like stretches games out even longer. Like heck, like one game just against one person can take so long. Usually you try and get it down to like 50 odd minutes or so, like depending on how long a round is. But if you just like set free and you have like no limits, games could go on for ages unless you've got some way to, you know, make them go quickly with some kind of like swiftness or really like burn deck or anything like that. But yeah, guys, this has been my kind of small discussion, or kind of not smallish, but I want to try and give the Carnivalous Waltz a decent enough video and me trying to explain epic stories, give my thoughts and opinions on it, and maybe some kind of cards that I would like to try. I feel like if I was going to build an epic stories deck, I would probably maybe use Flute, certainly. I don't know what the other ruler would be. I would probably have to think about it a lot, but I definitely would like to use Flute for her draw mechanic, so of course I would have to use Water, after I complain so often that I think Water is like the least useful colour in all of Force of Will. But I would definitely like to try and see what else I could use her with. I think she would be definitely a good card, even just for the draw mechanic. I mean, you would be limiting yourself to having to use blue, certainly, but depending on the colours of your other ruler, I think you could definitely make it work, especially if, say, you used the black-blue Valentina. I mean, you'd still be limiting yourself to 2 colours, but I feel like in this kind of format, you don't want to give yourself too many colours to work with, considering you've only got basic stones. But I hope you've enjoyed this kind of explanation, this kind of review-ish type of thing. I'm not quite sure what kind of discussion video this ended up being, but I hope you enjoyed the Carnivalous Waltz. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to discuss about it. I'd be happy to make an update video if there's maybe some more things that you want me to point out, or if there's like a little thing that you want me to do next time or whatever. Heck, I'm always happy to like chop and change a little bit, do little updates to these things. If maybe there was something you weren't too happy about, maybe something that you want me to discuss further, I will always do updates whatever if my patrons are happy for me to do so. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I managed to maybe entice you into looking into what Epic Stories has to offer. I hope you enjoyed this patron bonus for this month, and I hope you enjoyed this Card Game Wednesday. The next patron bonus will be coming out this Sunday. That will be for my lovely patron Alucard, so be looking forward for that coming out. And until next time, guys, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell button just in case you don't get updated on my videos coming out, because I know some people have been saying that my videos haven't been actually showing up in their sub boxes and everything, because, you know, YouTube algorithms and whatnot messing with the sub boxes and everything. So be sure to hit the notifications if you want to be updated every single time I upload a video, and of course check out the Patreon if you want to check out all the different rewards and tiers that I offer for supporting the channel. So until next time, guys, I will see you all. This video was made possible thanks to patrons such as Alucard, Craig McCutcheon, and the Carnivalous Waltz.